Welcome to Dimensional Wellness 365, where today I'm going to talk about how sick and tired I am of my lower back pain. And I'm going to start with this MRI report that I have in my hand, a coffee stain MRI report from back September 2021, where it talks about multi-level degenerative disc disease, multifaceted atrophy, moderate to severe L4, L5. Anyway, it goes down to basically you're different from the L1s all the way to L5. And it talks about all the issues that I have with my back that's basically now inherent part of me, right? But I look at the causation, and this is what I talked about before. In 2019, I went on this life journey, and I did my research before that. I looked at causation. So what is the causation of my lower back? All these issues, even from the arthritis in the knees and the calcific tendonitis in the hips, which is all under X-ray scans and CT scans and beyond the MRI here. I looked at the causation. So in my 20s, I had a severe construction accident where I was basically folded backwards. I got shot up 3 stories, back of my head, back of my feet touched. This is from the eyewitnesses that were on the scene. One of them actually called my mother crying, saying I was going to die. So woke up at the hospital, everybody was there. And rightfully so. The other thing is working out of a vehicle for a dozen years, as my vehicle was my office. Just like enforcement, law enforcement, where you see them with the printers and the laptops and you're filing and everything's in your vehicle, you're sitting sideways. Well, those bad ergonomics combined with my bad back accident, if I look at that throughout life, it caused a lot of other issues that progress, right? Degenerative. I felt like I was sitting on golf balls all the time, major leg issues, electrocutions all the time, from mild to severe, depending on the day. That progressed with, and then obesity. I had moments of obesity. I'm honest with myself, and I tell that to people. When you start getting honest with yourself, when you start getting involved and you start looking at the causation, I was obese. I did hit moments of obesity, beyond the 300s, all the way to 360, yo-yoing all the time, and I've talked about this in the past. So I looked at those causations, and then if I combine all that, I could have chose 2 paths. Right, and this is what I tell those that listen to understand. I could have chose this path where I continue, and then I'm that person on that cart inside the shopping mall that can't walk no more, right? Because that's where I was heading. From the medication for the cholesterol, medication for the heart, the sleep apnea machines. I don't want to bore you with that, but that's where I was heading. The obesity, and focusing on business. I was on multiple corporations, focusing on business, focusing on everything else except me. I wasn't investing in me. I was investing in everything else but me. So I chose to intrinsically change my path of life. I changed me, right? I invested in me by changing me and by getting involved in me. And that's what I did. Because today, I'm still sick and fucking tired of these back pains. But I refuse to take medication. They offer me medication, 2 different medications. But because of my life experiences, and I don't want to get into that, but I did travel across this country and I worked with individuals on the overprescribed side, let's just call it that. We have a huge issue in this country, in America, etc., on overprescription and a mixing of prescriptions and then accumulations of prescriptions where you get to a point where the elderly are on 30 plus pills a day on average, right? So I chose not to because I knew of the mind-altering effects of the medication does. And the doctor with the DMD was honest with me when I asked him, those medications you're prescribing to me, will they affect my mind? And the answer was yes. Right? They are mind altering. I knew that because I've worked with individuals that would tell me my wife's at the table but she's not there, or my child looks at me with a 1,000-yard stare. I did not want that. So I chose nature. I chose fitness, fasting, and flexibility. I chose lifestyle. That's what I did. I changed it around, and thank goodness that I did, because I don't know where I'd be today. Because in my 50s, it was like pulling that pin and 6 marble fell, like in Kerplunk, where my back got progressively worse. And then one of the reasons why I lost all this weight, those were one of the reasons, because I was always getting electrocuted in my legs. When I say electrocuted, it's almost like a spontaneous combustion. I have like current of hydro that runs through me. And I always got to move. I figured out one of the other things I got to do is always got to move. Whether it's jumping rope, getting on a pool, dancing, biking, something. If I sit long duration, if I lay long duration, you got to sleep, right? If I do that for long duration, it gets worse. So losing the weight, the fitness, the fasting, the flexibility, the mobility, the ability over disability is what I chose to do. And this is where when I look back at life, and I'm glad I lost 120 pounds. I'm glad I chose this lifestyle and investing in myself. Otherwise, where would you be? Right? Ask yourself that question. And I've said this to individuals. Look at yourself in the future. Look at yourself where you want to be, and look at yourself if you maintain this course If I would have stayed on this course, I know where I was going. I know exactly where I was going. That guy on the cart in the mall that can't walk. I chose not to be that person. What I chose was, I got off a perfectly paved road. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was a healthy road. I was training all the time. I was doing all that stuff, but I was eating junk, not real food like the average human being on this planet now eats processed and ultra processed and refined processed and pure junk, right? And overeating and malnourishment. When I say malnourishment, doesn't mean you have to be in some impoverished country. You're malnourished because you're not eating real food. So that what you're eating is pure junk. It's like putting sugar in your gasoline tank. You wouldn't do that, but we're doing it to our body all the time. Not anymore. So I chose to go on the path of healthiness. So yes, I jumped off a perfectly paved path. I went into the Bajas, and then I found myself on a beautiful other road. On a road of healthiness, on a road of true health, and on a road of investing in me. So I was sick and tired of my lower back pains and let's call them heading towards disability. And I still am. But I think to myself, where would I be if I wouldn't have changed what I did? Jean-Guy Bourguignon, Dimensional Wellness 365. Think about that. If you're in that position, be honest with yourself. Look at yourself in the future. Where will you be if you don't change the way you live?